sometimes the saucer itself becomes a different form of matter. Sometimes
Right.
if
It's metal and plasma.
Yeah,
you understand? And it's controlled by consciousness, which is so super strange.
If we're going to understand this, we need to start acknowledging the fact that we bring baggage to it. Yeah,
Are we leaning back into sort of those early images of robed angelic figures with wings?
And cool chicks. Welcome to Into the Unknown with Mike and John, where we dig the wildest happenings on the streets and in our skies. Tonight, we're cruising back to 1958. It's Season 3, Episode 10.
10!
I'm your DJ, Mike Duber.
And I'm John Wolfman Fitzpatrick.
Oh, wow. You really went there, brother.
I went there.
Pretty good. All right, DJ John, where are we going today? That was strange.
Well, when the atomic age was heating up, Sputnik had everybody's heads spinning, and space cadets dreamed big. Oh. It was also the year of the infamous Loch Raven, Maryland sighting. A real gas, daddy-o. Bright saucers zipping and zagging over the water had locals split between fear and wonder. And the whole scene had folks talking about flying saucers like they were the latest hit from Elvis, the king of rock and roll himself. So lighten your threads, rev up your imagination, and get ready to dig the UFO craze that had the whole country hip to the cosmic beat.
Okay. That's worse than doing pirates.
Oh my God.
Good Lord.
You should have warned me.
Your face is red. Yikes. And we're blowing out some levels here.
That's enough of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I could not keep that up the whole show if you paid me to.
I would think so. Hey, man, before we dig in here, let me just mention, obviously, we're in the 50s.
We're in the 50s.
Okay, and this is the Loch Raven Reservoir sighting.
Reservoir sighting. Now, it was suggested to us, right?
It was indeed.
Who suggested this?
William wrote into the show and said, hey, gang, enjoying things, but it would be really cool to hear about this sighting. And we said, you bet.
Yes.
So
Thank you, William. I had not heard about this. It was interesting to go and do the research.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Great. Well, here we are. We're there was a hell of an intro, and we'll see what that sounds like when I pepper in some music.
Should we back that up later? We might want to.
But have a backup?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right. Gonna get my voice back into place. Yes, tonight we are going to look at a reported UFO encounter over Loch Raven Reservoir in 1958. I suppose first we should say a word or two about Loch Raven Reservoir, just to set the scene. An interesting ecological fact about Maryland is that there are no large natural lakes in Maryland.
Yeah, that's right. They're all man-made.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of wetlands and small ponds, but by and large, Maryland does not have the glacial depressions or natural basins necessary for true lakes. All the water flows into swampy wetlands and directly into the Chesapeake Bay. And we have talked much more than I ever anticipated about how water flows in Maryland over these episodes. But it's true. The lakes you find are typically drinking water reservoirs, like Loch Raven.
Yeah.
Loch Raven is a reservoir north of Baltimore City, fed by the Gunpowder Falls River. Let me try that again because I'm marble-mouthed after all that.
Yeah.
Gunpowder Falls River, and supplies the drinking water for Baltimore City and Baltimore County. It holds an estimated 23 billion gallons of water.
Is that all?
Yeah. The reservoir grew over some time. Original construction was in 1881.
Oh, okay.
And the dam, which we will be visiting, and other works were intended to help funnel water to two other existing reservoirs. So the Loch Raven wasn't present quite then. Loch Raven itself was created in 1914 when the dam contained enough water to submerge the small mill town of Warren.
Oh, okay. Warrentown.
Further construction in the 1920s established the more or less final size and shape of Loch Raven Reservoir. To help protect the water supply, the land around the lake is kept as a public park in a more or less natural state. People are allowed to visit the park and enjoy the amenities, which include hiking trails, picnic areas, a frisbee golf course. I can't remember the last time I played frisbee golf.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go.
Yeah.
And a skeet and trap range. You know the difference between skeet and trap, right?
I don't think I do.
It's not that important. No, actually.
Skeet and trap.
Yeah.
Is it better the difference between the target, potentially?
Yes. So I'm going to get this. I hope I don't get this backwards, but it's skeet. You stay in position and the clay pigeons are thrown.
The little disc is
at
hurled.
different levels and heights, and you try to shoot the disc. In trap, I believe you walk a course, and they pop up sort of like if you were walking through a field and birds flew up.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's just my firearms knowledge. I'm sure I got it wrong. The lake is also stocked with fish, and people can enjoy fishing or simply boating. Somewhat curiously to me, because the reservoir provides drinking water, people are not allowed to swim in the water.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely certain why they stock the water with fish or allow boats if this is a concern. You'd think the treatment process for the water would...
Allow for swimming, you mean?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So, fun fact. That's my script. I actually found out what the story here is.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I mean, the swimming probably just cuts down on, dangerous circumstances and people having bad events.
Yes. You see, the problem is, it turns out, is that because it's a man-made lake, there is an abundance of unidentified and uncharted debris underwater. And that makes swimming very dangerous for the people.
Okay.
So it's really more of a problem for you can't know how deep things are, particularly in a reservoir where the water level goes up and down. You can't know how deep things are. You can't know if there's some old pole that just sticking up. You don't want to dive into that kind of thing. Okay. That's the real problem.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Loch Raven Reservoir was home to 4 bridges allowing people to cross the reservoir. We are most interested in bridge number 1, or the Yellet Bridge, which was Loch Raven Drive's original bridge and is near the dam. This bridge has quite the history.
Oh, dear.
The bridge,
is it a crybaby bridge?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
The bridge was not far from a notorious hairpin turn, and which actually comes up in the story. The turn caused many accidents. And in fact, in 1984, Baltimore County Police divers were searching the 80-foot deep waters below the bridge for a stolen motorcycle and accidentally solved a cold case from 1977. They found a 1977 Chevrolet Monte Carlo in the mud at the bottom of the reservoir, and inside were the remains of Wilbur French, who had gone missing in November 1977.
Wow, that's horrifying.
Yeah, again, you'd think dumping motorcycles and dead bodies would be a bigger problem than swimming kids, but we've already covered that. In any event...
Imagine... like this drinking water.
This is why I don't drink water from the tap in hotels.
It all had Wilbur French in it as of up to November.
Yeah.
How horrible.
Yeah.
Thanks. And the motor oil and the gasoline.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This bridge was replaced in 1988. It is no longer there. Okay. So, now that we've talked a bit about the area and its unfortunate history, our UFO sighting takes place on October 26th, 1958, around 10:30 at night, on or around bridge number 1.
Okay.
At that time, 2 young men, Philip Small, age 27, and Alvin Cohen, age 24, were driving near the Loch Raven Dam and spotted a UFO, as one does. Their sighting was eventually investigated by Project Blue Book, the U.S. Air Force program at the time to investigate UFOs. So we're going to actually use the Project Blue Book report as the main description of this incident.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
Some other details may pop up as we talk, but this is it. And I'm going to let you read it if you want.
Oh, wow.
So this is an actual government document.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
On 26 October 1958, two men were driving near Loch Raven Dam, which is north of Baltimore, Maryland. As they rounded a curve in the road, near a bridge, they sighted what appeared to be a large, flat, and sort of egg-shaped object hanging between 100 and 150 feet off the top of the superstructure of the bridge. They slowed their car, but decided to go closer and investigate the object. They slowly drove closer to the object along the road leading to the bridge. When they were within approximately 75 or 80 feet of the bridge, the car went completely dead. The witnesses reported it seemed as if the entire electrical system was affected. The dash and the headlights went out when the motor went dead. The driver of the car put on the brakes and tried to start the car, but he got no reaction whatsoever. The witnesses became frightened, and both got out of the car and hid behind it in the absence of any other cover. From this vantage point, they watched the UFO for approximately 30 to 45 seconds. Suddenly, the UFO seemed to flash a brilliant white light, and both witnesses reported they felt heat on their faces. Concurrently, there was a loud noise which they interpreted as a dull explosion or thunderclap. Very quickly, so that the witnesses didn't know the proper sequence of events, the object started to rise vertically. The object did not change its position over the bridge during the rising, but did appear very bright, and the edges became diffused so that its shape couldn't be made out as it rose. It took from 5 to 10 seconds to disappear completely. After the object disappeared from view, the witnesses turned the car around, which started without any trouble, and rushed back to the nearest telephone to report the incident. The phone was reached 15 minutes after the incident, and the sighting was reported to the Towson Police Department, which sent over 2 patrolmen to interview the witnesses. After reporting the sighting to the patrolman, the witnesses experienced a burning sensation of the skin and proceeded to St. Joseph's Hospital in Baltimore, where they were given an examination and dismissed. The witnesses returned home individually. Notes: the bridge is a double-arched steel frame construction with a concrete roadbed. It has a fresh coat of dark green paint and is about 40 feet high at the maximum height of each arch. The entire bridge is about 500 feet long, that's 0.1 mile, and the point at which the UFO was first seen was approximately 3/4 or 1 mile away. There was no unusual meteorological activity in the area, no thunderstorms, and quite clear. Visibility at Friendship Airport was 20 miles at 0100, 27 October 58. This case was extensively investigated. However, no valid conclusion could be reached as to the nature of the object or phenomena, and it remains unidentified. The available evidence does not indicate that this object or phenomena constitutes a threat to the security of the United States.
Unidentified.
Unidentified phenomena.
And does not constitute a threat to the security of the United States.
Which,
yeah,
that's a good conclusion.
We're going to talk about that, I think. Left out of this official Air Force report is that Small and Cohen's first call was to the Ground Observer Corps, which was a civil defense organization. I think we've even talked about them before, founded during World War II to provide visual early warning of potential air attacks. The Corps continued into the 1950s to supplement coverage as radar installations became more ubiquitous. I think they closed up shop in 1959.
Oh, okay.
It seems the person who answered the Ground Observer Corps phone did not take the call very seriously.
Oh,
no
wonderful.
matter how insistent the young men were. Eventually, Small grew exasperated enough to shout that he didn't care whether or not the Corps believed his story. He simply wanted to know if anyone else reported something similar that night. The Corps insisted the two friends must have seen, quote, a blimp.
Swamp gas.
No,
a blimp.
That's coming later. Okay. A blimp. And at that point, Small and Cohen hung up.
So I wonder, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
They may get, I wonder if they get crank calls,
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, and that is a great question to just throw out there. I don't have an answer for that. I suspect that, of course, they did, because what government phone doesn't get a crank call from time to time? And it feeds directly into some cultural observations I put towards the end about what let's put this into some context and what does it mean for us in ufology today. Let's hang on to that thought. Okay. That's when they called the police to make the report. The pair asked the report be forwarded to the Air Force, and that is apparently how Project Blue Book received the story.
So the two witnesses said, "Hey, give this to the Air Force." Really? So who are these two?
The thread, I don't know, but
they're very cognizant.
Yeah, the thread about how Project Blue Book picked this up is not clear. But they did get it, and you read the exact report. Like, the report left their names out, which I found curious, and other people have found very curious. It leaves out this fact that they called what was essentially a government body, the Ground Observer Corps, and got such shoddy treatment, and yet we're told it's unknown. But it's no threat.
But there's no threat. We know that. We don't know what the hell it is, but there's no threat. Okay. Right.
All right, let's move on through the story and some other details. Although both men felt the burning sensation on their exposed skin, particularly their faces, it seemed to affect Cohen more acutely. They began to worry that it was some form of radiation poisoning, which we'll come back to, and sought treatment the next day at St. Joseph's Hospital. Also not entirely clear from the official Blue Book report that these two visits or the incident and the visit to the hospital were not coincident. They were separated by the evening, by the day. It seemed that the two recovered quickly, but no explanation for the burning is described in any of the accounts I reviewed. It also seems that neither of the men had any long-lasting effects. So it was not radiation poisoning, at least not,
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So this starts right out of the gate smelling funny. You've got these two guys, and what comes to their mind immediately is, I've been poisoned with radiation. How many people in the 50s?
You're asking all the right questions.
I'm asking the right questions, and I am coming to this cold.
And we will get to that.
But I suspect, and let me just see how clever I am.
Okay.
Because this is top of mind coming out of the 40s, when we've just nuked a nation to win the war. But people are thinking, this is radiation.
That's part of it.
It's probably top of their mind.
That is definitely part of it.
Okay.
It's somewhat odd that given the level of detail, and that is to say the somewhat scant detail, the Project Blue Book concluded there was no apparent threat to the United States national security. Rather, the evidence on its face appears inconclusive as to whether or not a national security threat existed. On the other hand, no follow-up encounters happened to threaten anything. So, however they determined this, it does appear the Project Blue Book investigation was somehow vindicated. Let's go on. This 1958 sighting has some reasonable fame thanks to appearing in the Project Blue Book records and for being one of their unexplained incidents. But it is not the only UFO sighting over Loch Raven. It's not even the first sighting.
Wow.
Okay. So let's talk about some of that too. In May 1953, so not even a year after the Washington, D.C. UFO flap we covered previously, two young men were driving by Loch Raven around 8 p.m. on their way to pick up their dates. Their journey came to an abrupt halt on the same bridge. As their car rolled to a stop, the radio fell silent, and then the headlights fail.
Wow.
While the two men were grousing at each other over the situation, apparently they were each complaining that the other one was supposed to maintain the car, get gas, blah, 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 whatever.
Okay.
At that moment, they saw an orange glowing object some 300 feet in front of them over the bridge. This object, I love this description, looked like two saucers facing each other with what they described as an ultraviolet band dividing them.
An ultraviolet band
dividing them.
Ultraviolet.
So yeah, what I'm envisioning from this is, because it says an orange glowing. Are you also thinking this way or,
I'm thinking,
or this way? Yes.
Okay. You could do this, which is end to end, but I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking like
I'm thinking it's oblong, like the long end is pointing up into the sky and down at the earth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like envisioning the like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
Like two sides of a yo-yo with the center being the band.
The ultraviolet band. Yeah.
But what is ultraviolet?
Yeah.
I mean, violet. Mean? Violet, I get. Ultraviolet. Is that that sounds familiar, but it doesn't make sense to me.
That's the spectrum band just beyond what you can see.
But that's how they described it as a color.
Yeah. A color out of space almost.
Okay. Okay.
But the two saucer pieces are glowing orange.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. It's just such an interesting description.
Yeah. Not
a somewhat modern description, I might even say, rather than, I saw a metallic saucer, flying saucer.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is light from the object reflected off the water below it.
Okay. The other thing I'm finding interesting, and I'd be curious to ping, is, well, obviously there's water, but also the bridge itself. Is it some sort of conductor of energy? Because there's the coincidence of the bridge being the site.
I have no answers.
Up a lot.
I have no answers, but the curiosity factor around this sighting, the two sightings together, all the sightings in this area, you are pinging on the right motifs. Okay, it gets more interesting here.
This is a fun one.
Yeah. The two men watched the UFO briefly and then ditched the car, seeking safety, hiding in the woods on either side of the road. Okay, so they're bailing out of the car and going to either side. Yeah. They're not on the side.
And now that takes a good amount of fear.
Yeah. From these new vantage points, they continued to watch the object for another 10 likely very terrifying minutes. 10 minutes of this is a long time to just be sitting on the side of the road.
You got to wonder how much Oz effect is going on, too. Yeah, okay.
They report the object was 200 or 300 feet above the water.
Wow.
And here's the curious part. Underneath the object, they saw a, quote, column of fog or haze or mist, unquote, that stretched from the bottom of the object all the way to the water in a strange, quote, conical shape, unquote.
Yeah.
They also heard I'm going to try to do this.
Yeah, do it.
Sound.
Okay. Now, so let me, while you're paused there, this is, this is common in lore and the dropping of lake levels, that the saucers or craft would pick up some amount of water. This is very common actually in Argentina, in the Atacama Desert. There's
we'll have an opportunity to talk about this down below.
I'm so sorry.
We will.
Yeah, shut me up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Some online theories suggest the UFO was siphoning water from the reservoir.
Right there. Yep.
There.
Yep. Cool.
So I wanted to let you go a little bit, but we'll talk about some implications later.
Yep.
Theories about
this is payback.
Right. It's okay.
From our recording 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Theories about what the aliens might be doing with water vary, ranging from simply drinking water to making use of the elements found in water for ship processes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard what the conjecture is, but it makes sense. It makes sense.
There's some interesting ones, particularly about the USOs that you see in the ocean. And as I think about this, I think that this paragraph here, this short one, might be what I'm talking about. So one of the most interesting theories I've heard about ocean-bound USOs is that they are looking for natural sources of heavy water, deuterium.
Deuterium.
Okay. Which are used for
nukes, nuclear energy. So it's a fuel. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like the creation of heavy water was. In World War II, it was the Norwegians that had to cite that the Germans had taken over, right?
Yeah, and then some expat Norwegian commandos went in to take it out on skis.
Yeah.
I'm having a James Bond moment. Excuse me. Okay. All right, let's move on.
Let's bring in the army.
Well, we can never be too many steps away from our Catoctin Area B training.
That's right. How's ours?
There were incidents around Loch Raven long after 1958 as well. 2 decades later, in 1978, a fisherman named Mitchell claimed to see a bright round light rise out of the reservoir waters, climb to a height of 500 feet, and then hover briefly before, this is odd, plunging back into the water.
Oh, all right.
I had to read that twice because when I first read it, I thought, of course, it's going to skyrocket into the sky. No, it rose up, plunged back into the water.
Oh. Wow.
This is a peculiar report for this era, which did not have the variety of unidentified submerged object, or USOs, as I mentioned, sightings that we have today. I'm going to cough.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was the Wolfman Jack.
Yeah.
All right.
As we evolve the studio, John is going to get a cough button.
And I'm going to be able to do it myself?
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Here, it would be like this. Go ahead and try and say something.
I'm going to say something. And I don't hear myself.
I've muted John.
Put me back on. Put me in, coach.
Sorry, there we go. Now I'll mute.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you are muted.
Yeah, you can hear how muted I am. For God's sake, put
Wow.
my microphone back on, will you?
All the
There we go.
technology. Okay.
All right, a little bit of fun.
Even more unusual, an almost identical encounter at Loch Raven was reported in 1983 by several Baltimore City Water Department workers.
Oh.
Okay. In April 1996, Sharif Jamil, a Maryland writer and musician, I really probably should have looked him up to see what all that was about. But he and 2 college friends were hiking on and around the dam for fun on a Friday night.
Okay.
I don't know that you're supposed to be hiking on the dam, but that's part of the story. In fact,
well, it says on
the dam.
Yeah, maybe.
They heard
unless it's just a earthen berm.
No, it's a full on dam.
Is it? I don't think I've ever seen it. Frankly,
yeah, I don't know that I can't recall seeing it. It from the pictures, it did not look. It didn't look like Hoover Dam.
Well,
it's
for
not
example,
tall, but it's big enough. It's a big concrete dam.
Over here, Piney Run Lake, the dam, you can walk across it because it's open. It's like part of the path. Okay. You can just walk across it.
All right. Well,
anyway,
so the 3 of them heard a quote subtle humming noise unquote seeming to come from overhead. When Jamil looked up, he saw a glowing, oval-shaped object hover above the group of friends. Jamil described the glow as the color, and this is another interesting description, of natural gas flame.
That's interesting because I have a visual from the ultraviolet color, and I almost want to say like liquid mercury-ish. You know what I mean? Sort of that bluish...
Yes.
that bluey kind of.
So when I turn on my gas stove, I get a blue flame, and it's an electrical blue look, and that's what immediately popped to mind. But I have seen this orange, almost neon orange gas flame as well. So it's not clear which one he's describing, but both of those tie to what was described previously.
Yep.
Startled, the 3 quickly scurried off the dam and back to the embankment. So they were on it. By the time they reached solid ground, some 40 seconds to a minute later, the UFO had disappeared. At first, the discussion about the unusual encounter considered they had triggered some kind of security measure when they climbed out onto the dam. That's why, again, I'm not sure if the dam's really, open for climbing.
Yeah.
But Jamil then did some research on the dam and uncovered the 1958 story for himself.
Oh, interesting.
And reading that clicked for him. And he became convinced they had witnessed a UFO.
Yeah.
Okay. So the most recent reported event occurred in January 2000. At least the most recent I could find. If somebody out there has a more recent story, we want to hear it.
Sure.
On this snowy evening, an administrator from the Greater Baltimore Medical Center, or what is more commonly referred to as GBMC around here, spotted a disc-shaped object that looked like, quote, green fire.
Okay, now we're going in the green realm.
Yeah, different color. This flashed across the sky over the dam. Mm-hmm. And apparently it was very memorable because the green glow reflecting off the snow created quite the impression on the wetness.
I'll bet. Can you imagine?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that had to be something. The administrator stopped and stepped out of his car to watch the object. He immediately noticed a sickening odor that made him nauseous and forced him back into the vehicle. This is where it gets tragic. Like up until now, there are elements of this story that relate back, but they're very different too. And this is where it relates back, but gets different. Yeah. Shortly after the incident, the witness began to experience severe problems with his eyes. Oh. His eye irritation was so severe, he was unable to drive for nearly a month following the encounter. Yeah. According to the accounts I found online, and sure, we have to trust the paranormal stories we find online, right? Okay, let's just keep that. Because I didn't get names for this guy at all.
Okay.
But it's a great story, so I'm putting it in here, but I do have a little distrust of the story. Okay. According to the accounts I found online, the witness developed a mystery illness that caused pain in his joints and extreme back pain. Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting.
Fibromyalgia and back pain.
Who knows? To top off this story, the man supposedly took his own life about a year after this mysterious sighting.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is tragic.
Yeah, and like I said, yeah, go on.
So the eye irritation is common. Well, I should say common. I should say in my mind, I immediately am correlated because I'm doing research on Skinwalker. But one of the common, I keep saying that word, an evident, an effect on evidence on Skinwalker to an animal, to a cow, was that it had been acting strangely in the presence of some of the activity. And the cow came away with what they said the eyes had been irradiated, and they become roomy, cloudy.
Okay, yeah.
And the vet came and examined the animal, and he said, "We're going to take the animal off the site. This is a sign of radiation sickness." Huh. So the irritation of the eyes rings to me as radiation.
Okay, that's
and then who knows what the downstream effects to the joints in the back.
Yeah,
who knows what happened. That's a common thing because it was mentioned before, the radiation on the face, which is the ambient effect of the heat.
So
right?
Yeah, that was interesting because it almost with Small and Cohen, I got the sense of a flash sunburn.
Yes,
something that
I think it can present the same way.
Yeah.
But it might be a different level of radiation or even electromagnetic effect, which would maybe present in a different way, and it would affect the sort of the viscosity of an eye.
What's interesting about it being a flash sunburn is that would be ultraviolet light.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
The UV light. Right. Yeah. Affecting them, but they don't.
But that's also indicative of radiation burns as well.
Yes. Yeah. To some degree. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with this is that they're all in that family, but they're not. They don't. Mm-hmm. Except for this poor guy who ended up killing himself. They don't present quite the classic way that radiation poisoning does.
Yeah, right, it's entirely different, but it's getting as close as we can.
But it's in the family.
Right.
The other thing about eye irritation that struck me is that the Point Pleasant sightings, we haven't really delved into Mothman yet, but almost every single 1968 sighting of Mothman is accompanied by an eye irritation. And I'm trying to remember what the medical term they used for it was, but it is a real irritation of the eye. They get the bloodshot. They get red. You're constantly rubbing them.
Yeah,
all that stuff. Not quite the roomy eye that you described, but different. And again, in that family of you've seen something light has irritated your eye in a odd way. Those are all the incidents associated with spotting UFOs in the Loch Raven vicinity that I could find.
That is not insignificant.
No, and they all are, with the exception of that last one, they are remarkably consistent in location and type.
Well, and that it's a USO is equally disturbing. Gives you a whole new insight into why they may not want people swimming there.
Maybe.
Like, this is the Maryland Lake Baikal.
So I decided wow, that's a pin. That is not the pin I expected. But okay. I'm just gonna nod.
Just saying.
I'm just gonna nod.
Isn't that the deepest lake?
Yes, it's one of the largest in the world, and
it's the deepest.
Yeah,
right? Naturally deep.
Yeah. So I decided what I would do
Siberia
is throw some rabbit holes.
Do it
out there based on these things to pursue. So one of the ones I wanted to talk about briefly is. It's not unusual in witness accounts, particularly of this era, for UFOs to somehow stop cars in their tracks and then for the cars to spontaneously restart once the strange visitors have left. In fact, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP, has a whole paper on the topic, and I've put it in my show notes.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
It's pretty technical. I started to read it and just went, I'm just going to
not interested.
Get the high points out of it.
Yeah.
One of the things they noted was that, and so many listeners are going to have some familiarity with the concept of an EMP or an electromagnetic pulse. That if you don't, or you just want to, for sake of form, I'm going to throw it out there. It's a high energy radio frequency burst that can fry electronic devices within the blast range. And it was an effect that was noticed not insignificantly in this era, although it was not widely reported for obvious reasons, when they started testing nukes, that it would fry electronics.
And so that's just real quick there on EMPs. People have this fear of an EMP, and the anybody that knows about it apparently, and I'm not claiming I do, but they said, look, don't fear an EMP. The EMP and the result of your fried electronics is the least of your worries, because the only thing that triggers it is a nuke.
Right.
In other words,
well, there are some other things now, but the kind of attack they're talking about. I mean, they've looked at some similar types of devices that can emit the same kind of frequency to, say, take down drones. But it's the same but different.
We're talking about people are a fear of that EMP that would be released over a state or the entire nation. It fries everything. It's like the amount of energy to really fry things is immense.
Yeah,
I mean, smaller scale stuff to fry like a drone or whatever. That's one thing. But we're talking about frying everybody's electronics in their their computers and their cars and everything.
So
something completely different.
Yes, and I get into that a little bit here. Such a burst would render the starting mechanisms of internal combustion engines inoperable. It doesn't affect the internal combustion component so much as everything
the electronics,
everything that controls the internal combustion.
Yeah.
The other problem is that the EMP destroys the affected components. You have to replace them. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So it fries the board.
So what's curious about the encounters here and like ones elsewhere with UFOs is that if it was an EMP, it would be impossible to restart the engine.
Right.
And the UFO literature does have instances like that, but it is at least as frequent that we encounter stories like Small and Cohen's in which the car restarts. Right. That's a different technology.
Yeah, and so those are two different effects. One would be one that's an actual destructive overpulse. The other one would be maybe an absorbent possibility, like draining a battery, but then repowering the battery or deadening the current somehow, or making an effect where the electricity just will not flow.
Yeah.
But the other thing to consider is when because the lanes for speculation are completely wide open. The UAP can know that it's being observed.
Yeah.
And it just turns the car off.
Right. And is it somehow related to their skin affliction? Who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard
exactly.
to say.
Well, I mean, we're electromagnetic beings. How do we know that whatever is affecting the current in the electronics isn't affecting their neurons and the firing of things on our bodies or our hearts? Yeah,
exactly.
Which is driven by current.
And the the starting and stopping of the cars happens in a couple of these stories. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's a common effect in so many of these. Yeah. Awesome.
So some other things to keep in mind. 1958 is an extremely busy year during the Cold War, and so much of ufology and the Cold War are interrelated in ways that make both sides of that equation uncomfortable at times. For example, NASA was formally founded on July 28th, 1958, and this marked the formal beginning of the U.S. space program. The creation of NASA was a response to the Soviet Union's launch of the Sputnik satellite in 1957.
There we go.
It was one of the responses, in fact. The first U.S. satellite, Explorer 1, had been launched on January 31st, 1958. I presume, I should have looked this up on the Wikipedia, but I presume by the Air Force or something if NASA was not in place. So what's going on here that I wanted to draw some attention to is that the idea that human beings were about to enter space made extraterrestrial visitation seem less fantastical and more symmetrical in a sense. If we could go there, maybe someone could come here. And I'm going to introduce this idea about, why I'm talking about what else was going on in 58 and how that reflects in these stories. It might even parallel our current attitudes about the topic. Today, we have human beings regularly traveling in space. Indeed, there are people constantly living in space on the International Space Station. Commercial space travel is in its infancy, but even William Shatner has actually traveled to space. It's a little wonder to me that, from a psychological perspective, many now take alien visitation as a given rather than a possibility, and are astonished that disclosure hasn't already taken place. So I just wanted to sort of just describe or begin to describe that paralleling of the cultural attitudes or cultural things. Well, let's go a little bit further and see what else is going on. But we'll come back to that, and we can talk about that further after we have some more in here. So, some other stuff going on that might have caused some reaction or potentially fed reaction. The U.S. conducted extensive nuclear tests in the Pacific in 1958, including high-altitude detonations. By the way, that's what causes an EMP.
Right.
These tests sometimes produced unusual atmospheric effects, glowing phenomena, and electromagnetic disturbances. At the same time, public anxiety about nuclear war was extremely high. And UFO reports that mentioned interference with car engines, radios, or lights often occurred in a culture already primed to think about radiation and mysterious energy effects. So, historically speaking, 1958 sits at a crossroads where space travel is becoming real and visible, nuclear war felt imminent, radar and missile systems were expanding, secret aircraft such as the U-2 spy plane were flying, and it was known by 58 that was out there. Public imagination was saturated with exotic space imagery. So pop culture was also making a significant mark. By 1958, science fiction films had pretty much standardized the disc-shaped saucer, glowing portals, hovering with humming sounds, sudden vertical acceleration, and alien visitation as something of a Cold War allegory. And many 1958 sighting descriptions match those cinematic visuals almost exactly. There could be a lot of reasons. It goes back, it could go both ways. And I'm sure you'll want to talk about that. Some other things. Although not a flying saucer film, The Blob came out in 1958. Steve McQueen's first film.
All right.
And it reinforced the idea that something from space could land quietly in a small town in America and threaten the ordinary citizens. It emphasized a meteor arrival, local witnesses dismissed by the authorities, youth versus skeptical officials.
Right.
Okay. That quote, authorities don't believe us.
Yeah, that's echoed in the Small and Cohen story.
Yeah, narrative appears repeatedly in 1958 UFO reporting culture. Yes, it happens. It happens in Small and Cohen.
Yeah,
it happens elsewhere.
It happens like at the top of the script.
Yep. Perhaps the most whimsical bit of 1958 pop culture regarding aliens, I had to put this in here because we sort of talked about something like this, was the release of Sheb Wooley's #1 hit, The Flying Purple People Eater. The B-side, I Can't Believe You're Mine, which, when you think about it, seems oddly appropriate. Flying Purple People Eater, I can't believe you're mine. It's about a playful, if ominously hungry, purple space visitor. And we brought up the one-eyed, one-horned flying purple people eater with the Snallygaster because it was a one-eyed, one-horned flying people eater.
Yeah.
It really just left out the purple. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it came much earlier. So, okay.
All those boomers brought that into existence, right?
Yes. All right. So some other pop culture that is current at the time, contemporary. Amazing stories and astounding science fiction were popular magazines in 1958. They published science fiction stories, and they sometimes published that fiction as, quote, possible fact, as Amazing Stories did with the Shaver Mystery series, which is worth a pin.
Okay.
It came out in the 50s.
Not familiar with that one.
Oh, you probably are more familiar than you think. It leads to a lot of other stuff later on. That's why it's worth a pin. But it was published as, this is a man's true account about encountering various phenomena, including flying saucers.
Gotcha.
We'll leave it at that.
Shaver.
So anyway, these pulp publications frequently featured contact narratives, interplanetary travel, alien surveillance of Earth, radiation-altered beings. I mean, the cinema did too. Them, the giant mutated ants, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The Watchers from Space trope was very common. And some 1958 UFO witnesses, these are actual witnesses, described objects observing rather than attacking. Language very much aligned with the magazine era storytelling. Moreover, these popular fiction magazines paralleled numerous private publications by actual UFO or flying saucer researchers in the 1950s. Usually these were small press newsletters from UFO clubs or devoted independent researchers. Something of a pin. We can come back to some of those individual researchers at a much later date. But these periodicals printed stories purported to be fact about witnesses who were contacted by UFO crews, strange encounters with mysterious visitors, and even began the slow but steady stream of conspiratorial stories about Men in Black and the assertion the U.S. government was hiding the truth from everyday Americans. So there's an odd confluence there of fact and fiction paralleling. By 1958, let's sum up some other things here. The space race was real. Nuclear annihilation felt plausible. Flying saucers were a standard pop cultural object across all media. Government secrecy was assumed. Aliens took on several different roles. They could be monsters, invaders, observers, or just misunderstood beings. So, not necessarily by causing them, but by shaping these ideas of the object shapes, discs, cigars, glowing domes, or other objects. The reported behaviors of the UFOs, hovering, a vertical ascent. Some of the assumed motives. They're observing us. Maybe they're going to invade us. The suspicion of authority, which kind of cuts both ways. Like, what do you do with this report? I'm going to call authority. Oh, but they don't believe me. And then the presence of radiation or electrical interference. So in short, UFO reports existed at the intersection of Cold War fear, new space technology, and established sci-fi imagery. So am I saying that witness accounts were made up in the imagery of the culture? No, not necessarily. But I am saying that the culture shaped perception of the encounters. And even as a skeptic, I'm a proponent of the idea that the experience of phenomena is shaped by the witnesses. And we should be wary of this when reading today's encounters. Like, I think these questions are, how is society and culture that we experience now shaping our current perceptions of encounters with the unknown? Can we identify that shaping? Or will it only become more apparent in retrospect when future generations can identify our own cultural desires, anxieties, and expectations the way we can now look back at the 50s?
Quick break, folks. We'll be right back.
So what do you want to pick up there? Because I threw a lot out, and I expected to throw a lot out.
Yeah,
we can pick up some threads.
That's a huge. You're spilling all the toy box onto the floor. There's a lot. I don't know. Pick one. Would you like to dig in? Because I know you're big on the sort of the opposite shaping. That our reactions are shaping more of what, as opposed to it's shaping us.
Well, there's, I'm open to both ways. Like, let's, assuming that there is a phenomenon, is it presenting in ways we accept? Or are we looking at a phenomena and imposing on it our expectations? Like I said, our desires, our anxieties, and our expectations. And, I think we can, like I said, in this instance, I described what was going on in 1958 culture after we looked at the actual witness reports. And the witness reports from the 50s are, I see the flying saucer, I've got the radiation stuff going on. What are they experiencing? Are they reporting what they're actually seeing accurately, or are they seeing it through a lens?
Okay.
And then I guess the question is, how are our reports similar and different today, and how are we viewing it through a lens? And shouldn't we be aware that we're viewing it through a lens?
Well, so describe the lens. What is it? Is it self-imposed? Is it one that they're imposing?
There's a question.
And you're talking about a lens through which we're looking.
Whose lens?
Whose lens is it?
Is it ours
again?
Or theirs? Yeah.
And I wonder, and it just occurred to me, and I'm not sure the true formation of this thought. In short, 1958 UFO reports existed at the intersection of Cold War fear. Yep, I can say that's there. New space technology that you'd read about that NASA might be talking about, or the Russians put up there. Got it.
Yeah.
Established sci-fi imagery, as pop culture might put it, into our heads and put it into magazines, which is not at all surprising. And there's enough sort of the lead up to that, that started with, Jules Verne type of, steampunky kind of movement and led up to this. There's the airships, which lends into that lens of that the phenomenon is one step ahead of where we currently are technologically. Now, with this new era, I would be curious, and by the way, I just got done reading Passport to Magonia.
Oh, okay, good.
Read that recently, so I
read
have
it
that
a
on
long
the tip
time
of my
ago,
tongue.
but I should reread it.
Yeah, and that's Jacques Vallée's book on cleaving closely the fae and the fairy world and gnomes and all of these mythological creatures with the current tropes of the UFO technology. But I was wondering, is there a fourth thing here?
Oh, maybe. I don't pretend to have all the answers here.
And so when we say, we get these ideas of there being a watcher, or we get the sense that, we're being observed, or any information that might be coming about who's piloting or the craft themselves, I would add in there, and this starts to get into the strange and unacceptable, and for you may just not want to address it at all, but there's going to be people out there in the community that said, I am channeling information from extraterrestrials, and that's a common thing.
Happened in the 1950s too.
You've got modern day. You've got Swaru. If you're familiar with Swaru, you've got different people, channelers like Daryl Anka, who are channeling Bashar, who is a a contact expert, and they have names for the planets and the systems and the descriptions, and there's whole lore. I'll just call it lore because we can't point at it.
There's a whole tradition of this that goes back into the 1950s and more or less starts with George Adamski.
Yeah. And so you've got this contact and sort of this reverse contact SOP.
Yeah.
You've got the statement of, and now here's an interesting one that maybe we pick up on, is apparently now the extraterrestrials are telling us one way or another that there is a prime directive of how I'm supposed to engage with the humans.
What do they call it? Is it exopolitics? Is that the
right
term?
I've not heard that term, but
there's a whole thing about how the alien politics work and how Earth has to interact with that and the prime directive bit.
Yeah, and there's federations and so forth.
There's the other thing about that is that that's recursive too, in that there's supposedly I can't remember off the top of my head without doing the research. It might be the Valiant Thor story.
Right. Yep.
But I could be wrong. But the term prime directive comes from one of these contactee type things in the 50s and 60s. Supposedly Gene Roddenberry is
that's where I was
attached
going.
to it.
That's where I was going.
And then he puts it into Star Trek.
And then it becomes part of that echo chamber.
Right.
It becomes a thing. And and here's the reaction that I had. Knowing that was something from Star Trek, meaning a thing like, don't break the prime directive. You're supposed to observe and not interact or change
until they're ready.
Until they're ready, or whatever.
And there's a trigger event in Star Trek. It's the discovery of warp travel.
Yeah, but, and I was not a Trek fan, but I knew enough to know there was some sort of rule book that
there's
you're following,
trigger.
Right?
Yeah, you're not supposed to interfere with their development until they discover warp travel, and then since they will inevitably run into you, it is better to manage the contact by talking to them.
And so, in my recent readings and investigations, when I hear and I'm looking at galactic messages coming from this group or that group, and here's the way we approach it, and here's what I channeled, and everything that I'm looking at there. When they said, there's a prime directive, and my first initial response was, you pulled that from Star Trek.
But it's recursive.
But it's actually, Star Trek got it from these groups.
Well, yeah, if you believe the story.
I'm presuming you agree.
Yeah,
right?
I'm throwing that out there as the story, and there is that story.
But that's why I added that extra in there, that fourth element, which is what are we actually getting from them? Yeah. And that would point to maybe what your lens is. This is what we want you to see.
Yeah.
And this goes to, this again points to the Oz effect. And like when I'm bringing you into the ship and I'm doing whatever my agenda says I'm doing, I'm going to implant you with a memory. And here's what I want you to take away from the interaction with us on our ship. Right. Which again is a lens. I'm putting on you a story that you're going to remember and recall. But also that anthropomorphic tendency we have as humans, right, to broadcast or project onto other things thoughts that we would have.
Yes.
And it's not entirely wrong. It's a place to start, but who knows what their agenda is?
Right. And alien is going to be alien.
It's going to be alien.
Yeah.
And they could say, here's what we're doing. And we'd go, why the hell would you even do that?
Yeah.
Or they could tell us something and we would have no concept at all.
Right.
What it is. And there's all kinds of theories about what they're doing. But then also this is that collapsing point of spirituality and technology that's coming together, because there's been this huge mix. And I'll give you an example. One of those shows that I talked about that I would sample just to see what's going on the show and what truth there is there. One of them's called The Dead Files.
Okay.
And there's a character called Amy Adams, and she's a person. I call her character. We call them characters, right?
Yeah.
But she's the psychic that says, I talk to dead people.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So they get the Italian, ex-homicide cop from New York.
Okay,
and he goes out there and he talks to him and he's like, hey, what do you got going on? And I'm being a jerk. But,
that's okay.
But he goes out and he's a nice guy. And they say, oh, I've got I'm not sleeping. I'm seeing shadow people, and I'm angry, and I'm taking it out, and all the problems. But then she goes through the house, and she sees what's affecting people, and then they work it out, right? So in the end, and it's very formulaic. But there was one episode where she said, I see an elemental here, or something, right? I see the ghost of the guy that owned the house, and I see an elemental, so this is sort of an earth spirit, but then I see an extraterrestrial over here, and I'm not entirely certain what he's doing.
Okay.
Okay. Now, in my mind, I'm like what? That is a weird overlap. And it was only one episode.
Why are we throwing that in there?
Well, I don't. Well,
but so, you're at it.
So
you're,
what
wait,
I'm
I like
I'm
this.
pulling the thread.
I like you pulling this thread because you may be going somewhere else I want to go.
Well, there's the path that I could immediately bring us back into UFO lore says this, and this is actually something that I found profound that I got because I'm reviewing some of this information just to see what are they talking about. Swaru says this.
Okay.
Human beings, humankind will never become interstellar until they master both technology and spirituality.
Okay.
And so the technology is the nuts and bolts, and the spirituality is actually the consciousness.
Okay.
And there's plenty of evidence and plenty of discussion that the alien craft are unhackable by us, or we don't know how to operate them. We can't open them. We can't do this or that with them or fly them because they are consciously driven, and we do not have or have trained up on the conscious ability to pilot the craft.
So you're
and so that's I'm just repeating what I'm hearing
I'm not gonna throw any stones at that.
That's fine.
But I am gonna say
you can
that
throw as many stones as you like at it because
I don't
all
know.
just stuff.
Right. Well, you've opened the door to that spirituality dimension of all this, and that's where I wanted to.
Yeah.
That's what I've been thinking about for the past 5 minutes.
Where do you want to go with
that? So again, to go to that, what is our modern lens? What are these things saying about us? Okay. It's pretty clear that culturally speaking, American society is undergoing yet another religious revival.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for sure. Yeah.
For better or worse, and people have different takes on it.
Yeah. And it's taking different forms.
Yes. And some of them are very healthy, some of them concern me, and we'll leave that at that.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree.
One of the ways that's popping up into this particular example of the phenomenon, the UFO domain, is there are lots of people who are pointing at it and saying those things are demonic, or they're angelic,
right?
And it's even popping up in certain government circles, that religious revival is appearing, again, for better or worse, in military circles. So there are well sourced stories about how certain parts of the Pentagon, certain offices of the Pentagon, are saying we don't want to deal with UFOs or UAPs because they're demonic.
Right.
And this is causing a bit of but okay, whatever else is going on there,
right?
Clearly, our cultural lens is part of it right now is that religious revivalism.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's affecting how we're experiencing the phenomenon. And then that also is somehow, and again, my point here is, I don't know that the people in the 50s were looking up and going, well, because I read that report about nuclear radiation last week, I'm now getting sunburned from this UFO. In much the same way that we don't quite understand how we're experiencing the phenomenon today, except as, in this vague way of me saying, hey, maybe one of the reasons why people are saying these things are driven by demons or angels is because we're undergoing the religious revival. How are these things feeding each other? We won't understand it until there's distance.
I hear where you're going.
Yeah, so but that spiritual aspect is definitely there.
I think it is. I think it has a different origin, and I think it has, and this is me. I think that's definitely happening. I think there's a cultural touch to it. I think there is an environmental touch to it, and I don't mean environment like climate change or anything like that. Yeah. I mean just our living environment in this solar system. We can get into that, and that's a pin. But I will tell you that my understanding of the in the day of the 1947 and the beginning of Majestic, or the purported Majestic 12, which were the group of 12 people that were the gatekeepers on this, and sort of the first SAP that held this information, right?
SAP, Special Access Program.
Sorry. Yeah. Special Access Program, the classification beyond what anybody was going to get. But this was largely driven, that was also largely driven by a fundamentalism, a religious fundamentalism. As I understand it, and I don't know, but as I understand it, a lot of it was driving it then, back in the 40s and 50s, and it still is there now. Yeah. And I think
it's a human interpretation of what they're experiencing, because
it is. I mean, it is.
Who knows what these things are? They may not even have a concept of demon or angel, but we are projecting our cultural
the question
system
I might
that.
ask is, and this may be rare for me, how nuanced is it to say that it's demonic or not? I mean, because I just say that some folks will see anything that is not pure and just call it demonic.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that's a bad thing. All I'm saying is it may be just a very heavy-handed interpretation that anything that's not natural or of, according to my view, if it's not of God, it's got to be devil and it's demonic, period. Which is just a way to say everything bad is demonic. Well, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not specific.
Because
it's like
that kind of religious outlook often leads to some very binary thinking.
It is. By its very nature, it is. There is good and there is evil, and there's the bucket. There's two buckets. Categorization.
Well, everything has to come down to good or evil eventually, but
it does.
But there's other binary thinking involved in that as well. Like if we're God's creation and God's special project here, the fact that there might be a non-human intelligence from wherever can be very threatening to that. So clearly, it must be demonic. And now it's evil. And, and again, so there's a sort of circular reasoning or logic problem involved with that outlook.
Yeah,
and you can see where all that can lead to issues.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And again,
which is not to beat up on religious people.
It's not. It's just our
traps.
Our apprehension of their worldview might be that it's very easy for them, right? Like that's good and that's bad, and this is what I gravitate towards, and this is what I reject, and anything I reject is demonic, and that's totally fine.
There are traps to all kinds of thinking.
That's right.
This is one of the traps that appears in that religious domain. Yes.
Well, and so the point that I think, just for the audience listening, that we were talking about, I think for one thing I want to say that I think if you're new to this topic and you're like, what the hell are they talking about, right? A lot of times people have this belief that the government is this monolithic, moving, single entity. Not. It is so fractious.
Yeah.
It is so splintered. Yeah. You can go from one agency to the next, or even within an office within an agency, and there are factions, there are people, there are groups, there are cliques, there are
politics.
It's like high school. Yep. They could act like jackass. There's a whole range because, after all, it's made up of people. And so if you imagine that type of organization that's splintered by cliques and popular groups and unpopular groups, that who would be the holder of information? Maybe it's several of these people, and they may disagree. And that's what I've heard is happening on the inside, is that you've got...
About this particular topic of the UAP, UFO phenomenon. Yes, I've heard the same thing, but we're probably hearing it from the same folks who are interested in it. But
I would try to say that would possibly... How would it lead to disclosure, and what's holding it up? And it could be these 1, 2, or 3 or several factions arguing over
because they can't because suddenly they cannot concur on what to release
and what to call it.
What is the story here? Because if somebody's saying we can't release this because there are demons involved, first of all, they are probably savvy enough to know I can't say it like that in this document that I'm going to have to produce to put a kibosh on it getting out. So that's going to cause the wheels to grind slowly.
Right.
Meanwhile, there are other folks who are looking at this from a more scientific, I'm not sure. They're looking at it from a more pragmatic or more rational, non-religious, and I guess that's what I mean by scientific bent. Like, hey, are these, and they could think about what the UAP is in many different ways. They could think it's a non-human extraterrestrial intelligence. They could think of it as a non-human intelligence that's ultra-terrestrial. They could be thinking about it as some kind of solar system wide phenomenon that is just purely energetic. You know, why are these plasma balls showing up in my sky type thing? But that's, any of those things is at odds with the other potential viewpoints. And so if you've got camps on that side, even in the non-religious domain, what do you write? You know, how do you release this? What is my disclosure? And can they even agree on, there's something weird in the sky? And they kind of seem to have done that already. Yeah. So what more are they going to produce? And when they get pushed by factions,
well, what hasn't happened is the official part. I mean, I think it's what they call soft disclosure. It's already out there. If you
that something weird is happening in the sky.
Yeah, it's something weird. If you deny that there's nothing weird happening and there's nothing to see here, then you really are self-deluded. I mean, in my estimation, I think there's plenty of there to say there's something weird. No one can put their finger exactly on it. Maybe some do have the knowledge of what exactly it is because they got it in a garage and they're looking at it. Who knows? But then if you read John Keel, it's like what they have in the garage could also be this massive illusion. Right? Or it's a fairy craft, according to Ballet, and his, that this is, and a dwarf is going to walk out of it in a uniform, in a weird,
but that goes
Michelin Man uniform or something.
Yeah, but that's
strange. Like all the weirdness.
But if you take those viewpoints, then the possibility that the phenomena will actually present as angelic or demonic actually comes back into play.
Well, that's true,
and that's
too.
Another problem too. If this phenomenon has the ability to choose itself, how it presents. It's
waiting to see what we're going to manifest in conscious or consensus reality together. Are we leaning back into sort of those early images of robed angelic figures with wings,
or the dozen-winged, 24-eyed,
from Revelations,
crazy angelic creature,
or is it in a different era, like the Ezekiel's wheel? The visuals that he was presented with in his book of the Bible.
Now, see, I just want to remind you when we pitched this story to each other and we're floating it around and we were trying to figure out what to do with it, and I said, well, I could take this angle, and you said, why would you stay in the past? See, I tried to move this because
is that what I said?
Well. That was sort of, I have to admit, that's sort of the way I heard it. Because you were saying all these people are so beyond these questions about whether or not we're being visited. The question.
When you're saying to get back into this topic area?
We need to approach this topic in a way that is contemporary, that deals with, because people are dealing with what was it?
I remember now.
Yeah. So I tried to find that way to do that. And I started to ask that question. How are those 1958 cultural anxieties informing how they're describing it? And what is that saying about us? And what can we learn? And what are the threads that are the same through this whole thing? Because certain things do remain same. We still have... the descriptions are not that far off some of these things. Like that description of the two orange glowing saucers with the ultraviolet band sounds much more energetic to me than like a nuts and bolts flying saucer, silver cigar. It sounds much more energetic. Like we might describe those things now. Oh, I saw an orb in the sky.
I think that the nuts and bolts aspect, which I'm told, depending on, well, I shouldn't say depending on. I mean, the information that's out there, you can get the nuts and bolts descriptions of it. You can get the energetic, but I think the folks that are really in the know are saying like they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Like the alien technology, yes, it's nuts and bolts, but it is a different. It's almost like the cross between
if it's
metal and plasma.
Yeah,
you understand? And it's controlled by consciousness, which is so super strange.
Yeah.
And if I came out and I had a paper, like, and imagine the papers, right, that might come out.
Yeah.
And you're reading it, and can you imagine that it says there is material that can shimmer in and out of our dimension based on your conscious interaction with it, and it can envelop you, and it can completely cease the time dimension, and you can move forward and back and anywhere that you can imagine, right? Because that's effectively what we're talking about here. People would lose their minds, and people that don't follow this will not be able to follow it.
Yeah.
It will take a long time to onboard this.
Yeah, well, there seem to be an increasing number of, I'm just going to call them stories, because you get them in different forms of media. You can get them on YouTube, you can get them in podcasts, you can get them in books. But the stories all boil down to something that's trying to split the difference, where I sit in my saucer, but then when I turn it on, it's not so. Sometimes the saucer itself becomes a different form of matter. Sometimes the saucer is enveloped in a plasma-like, and language begins to fail in some ways. Shimmering bubble that allows me to do the travel across whatever medium I'm in, whether it's air or water or space, and then
it's
you begin
cutting through the ether.
Then you begin to ask the question, well, can it move through solid matter as well? What are the limits of such a propulsion technology?
Well, if you listen to some of the abduction stories, they said they're floated off the bed and right through the window, wall, not ceiling, through an open window, but through the wall or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so the question would be, at some level, yes, that's something that is in the lore. Or in the stories,
it's already there.
Itself. Yeah,
it's there. And then we have to explain it, and the only language we have are the cultural perceptions that we bring to it.
Yeah,
and that if you're completely immersed in your religious ideology, then they're angels and demons is probably as good a language to explain these things as anything else. And it doesn't. I keep coming back to that because it seems so outlier.
I don't think it's outlier. I think. Yeah, go ahead.
There are. I mean, the three more rational. I keep saying more rational. I don't know that rational is really the right word either. That idea that it's a non-human extraterrestrial intelligence and technology. Mm-hmm. It's a non-human ultra-terrestrial intelligence and technology, or it's just a natural phenomenon. Maybe it's conscious of itself. Mm-hmm. Those things are also lenses. If your worldview is tilted towards one of those more than another, like I suspect if I see a UFO, I'm probably going to have an experience because of the way I've approached this over the years until recently. Mm-hmm. My experience would be much more like I'm going to see a flying saucer or a triangle or a technological artifact flying, and I will describe it as such, not it was a plasma ball or
energetic.
Right.
No, I get you.
Or
potentially,
not, and I probably won't lean on angels and demons either. My upbringing in this ufology bit is to consider it more like a technology and probably an extraterrestrial one. But that's changing. So maybe my mind does get blown and I do experience something that is so undescribable that I am forced back into, well, it was a big ball of plasma. Or maybe
you just suppress it.
Or I suppress it,
and you don't want to talk about it.
Or it's the metallic orb that you sometimes see on some of this video. Mm-hmm. That's just as mysterious. Like, it looks like it's a metallic orb.
Yeah.
But is it metal? Is it a technological artifact? Or is it something that just...
Are you referencing, did you look up the Boogosphere? Which is a terrestrialized legitimate ball that they have, someone's got locked away.
Yeah, it's just so weird, but I think we need to acknowledge if we're going to understand this, we need to start acknowledging the fact that we bring baggage to it.
I would agree. And I think in the same way that we bring baggage to anything else, if we were talking psychology with a bunch of psychologists, we would say John is bringing his suburban upbringings. John is bringing his academic training from
he's a cisgendered white male.
Okay,
Generation X.
Yeah, that's true. You know? Yeah, all that,
and all that's bringing baggage to it.
All those intersections. Yes. John's training from his ancient Greek training.
Yeah.
You were taught in the Socratic method
at
the law school, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Isn't that ancient Greek?
Yeah, in its essence, yes.
Yeah. But it's a method, right? And so I've been waiting to push that one on you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we're 1 hour and 18 in. Is there anywhere you wanted to go? By the way, I would like to say, and I'm sorry to step right on you. I asked you a question, but here's what I'll do. I'll throw this out there.
You go in, and then we can kind of wrap it up. You tell me what you want to talk about.
I do recall the comment about we got to get some of this current stuff in here, and I may have said, like, let's not do an old story. Let's do a new story. I know I wanted to do this one because William asked for it.
Right.
And William, awesome. Thank you, William.
See, good conversation.
Thank you, William. Right. Awesome. But I like what you've done with it, and I do believe, and I do know that it's all relevant because any story you bring forward, it's going to have how did it present, what were the unique parts of the circumstance. I'm floored to know that it was drawing water out of the reservoir because
we didn't really even talk about that.
So many cases down at the Atacama Desert where that's common, where they said, the lake, the workers around the lake or this reservoir said, we lost like several feet of water in moments. What the hell did that? And I thought, to have that happen here in Maryland's amazing. So anyway, my point was, and I remember saying, like, we should be talking about, and we are, all the very recent things. There is so much happening today that is so relevant to the case. And so that's what my argument was.
Yeah.
We should pick something
I think I heard that
allows us.
I may have mischaracterized it when I mentioned when I brought it up, but I think I heard what you were trying to get across.
Yeah,
I think I did.
Okay, no, you did. And I think what you're saying is, I used this old case to be relevant today. And I think you did a great job. Yeah. So what did you want to mention before we close things out? Are you good?
I think I can be done here.
Okay,
I
agree.
There's probably plenty more, but I think we can come back.
We can put it in another episode,
Exactly.
John.
That's the point.
That's the lesson I've learned.
It's an ongoing conversation.
It's me that learned the lesson today because I write the big-ass scripts, and I try and fit too much in. But we got 2 episodes out of it, so that was cool.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And that was good because we were running a little behind.
We need, well, it's me. It's me. I got behind, but I think I'm okay now. That's right. You mentioned, yep. Okay, good. Well, this was awesome. Again, thank you, William, for the suggestion.
Yes, thank you, William.
If you have suggestions, we'll do it because, as you can see, William wrote into the show, and we responded. And we've been trying to hit these requests.
So if you want to write into the show, I'm going to start with our actual website, itupodcast.com, itupodcast, one word, .com, which does branch out to all our other social media, but you will be able to find a way to email us there and all the information that we post about the show, the show notes, the books we've read, all kinds of neat stuff. So from itupodcast.com, you can go to our Facebook page where we do a lot of the advertising and social media type stuff. Initially, that is my first stop when I manage my social media. It is obviously Into the Unknown with Mike and John on Facebook. It does branch out to a conversation sort of fan group from there, but nobody seems to be using that. I implore you to use it. I am not going to kickstart that. I am going to let that grow organically.
It'll happen if people have things to talk about.
And Instagram as well. You can find Into the Unknown with Mike and John on Instagram. And because of the odd way that all of these things work, that whenever I post on Instagram feeds my personal Facebook page, which I'm not giving out, and is locked down pretty well. But the
it sounds like a lot of work.
It sounds like a lot of work. The show, Facebook and Instagram, Into the Unknown with Mike and John. Check it out. You can. We always come up with some interesting pictures for the upcoming episodes to advertise them. There's usually a fun post on Sundays, and every now and then I come across some information that I feel is worth sharing, and I put it on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
The Instagram is pretty well just routinely what the next show is coming out, but Facebook gets some more traffic. So.
Nice. Yeah, you do a good job out there, John. I'm glad you give it the attention it requires. We appreciate that. All right, so we've got one more episode in season 3, and I think we were telling folks that it's going to be Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm telling you it's not.
It's not.
To be. And John may be surprised. I don't think I told you, but I have pivoted.
I don't think so, but okay.
Yeah, and we're going to have one more in season 3, and I was going to make it a surprise, but I don't know. I'm not big on surprises. I ran across some information that I thought was fascinating.
Okay.
And it brings in science, and it brings in consciousness, and it's prayer. The power of prayer.
Okay.
So I'm writing it now. I'm almost done, and we will have that in another couple. For you, it'll be probably next week. So that may be the last episode in season 3, and then we're looking to put season 4 together, and we're looking to bring in a lot more interviews.
Yes, and in fact,
that'll be fun.
We need to talk about scheduling that ninja.
Yes.
I found a ninja.
Yes. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I know this ninja. I haven't spoken with him for a while.
He can't be a very good ninja if I found him and you know him. No, he's
a very good ninja.
He's a very good ninja.
We like
and
this
I think
ninja.
that'll be
we can't wait to see him.
Fascinating conversation. That should appear very early in season 4.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we've rambled enough. We thank you so much for hanging on and listening, and to all of our fans out there. If you're fans, I think we're up to 5 now. It's amazing. All 5 of you are awesome.
Thank you. I love you so much.
I'm kidding. It's probably more than that, but all of you are great. So
started with 2.
I know, me and you.
5. All right.
Awesome. All right, gang, we're gonna wrap it up. So thanks again. See you next week.
Bye.